Hello and welcome. I'm Gauhar Raza and you are watching Eureka, a program that introduces a scientist who has excelled in his area. Soviet Union shook the world when it sent a Sputnik in space. Humanity for the first time touched spaces. Sputnik, then Laika, and then Yuri Gagarin, a human being, for the first time saw the Earth from space. This triggered a lot of things. One was that now humanity had confidence that we can go to space and utilize the space to look back at ourselves, and this was the beginning of a new era, the space era. But it also shook the world in terms of completely revamping education system throughout the capitalist world, which had lagged behind. NASA came into being and became one of the most important centers of space research.
Dr. Upendra Singh, an internationally recognized atmospheric scientist and laser remote sensing expert. This Indian origin scientist hails from Purnia in Bihar. Dr. Singh started his career with NASA in 1996. He was soon promoted to senior positions here. With his relentless efforts and hard work, he has risen to the position of Associate Director for Sensor System at NASA Langley Research Center. Dr. Singh was bestowed with numerous international awards in NASA for his outstanding work. He is presently the president of the International Coordination Group of Laser Atmospheric Studies. In this special episode of Eureka, we ask him to share experiences and achievements on his scientific journey.
Welcome, Dr. Upendra, to Rajya Sabha channel. I'm very, very thankful to you. You gave us time. You have a very busy schedule in India. You're visiting the country, and I'm sure you must be meeting a lot of friends, both scientists and your relatives. How do you look back this whole journey of life, which took you from Purnia to IIT, to France, and then to NASA?
Let me first thank Rajya Sabha TV. I'm very thankful for this honor. And everywhere I go, I have certain message. And because, like you said, I grew up, I was born in Purnia. And my journey started from that time. And then since then, I'm continuing.
Your father didn't have anything to do with science. Your mother was a homemaker. She had a dream that the son should become a big person, but didn't know that he is going to become scientist. How did you get interested into science?
Let me tell you, when I was in school, there was one time I happened to go to library, and there was a book called Scientific Americana in the library, very old volume in the high school. And I was reading this magazine, which has a simple article from the fundamentals that how things are. And I read about this laser fusion was there, that how laser beam can actually implodes a very, very tiny particles, radiative particle, and can generate a lot of energy, sustained energy.
Very high frequency,
yes,
or maybe long wavelength.
Yes, yes.
But lots of energy packed into
52 beams coming and hitting a very, very tiny part of this. So, and I heard the word lasers, and I thought, this is very exciting.
Which is acronym, which is not a word.
Laser is light detection and light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. So basically, all the lights are polychromatic. Laser is a very single wavelength or single frequency light. I got fascinated, and somehow I got interested in physics.
And then you decided that it's going to be laser, laser, and laser in your life.
Exactly. So my father, being the principal of DS College Katihar, I came from Purnia, I moved to Katihar. I did my schooling, 2 years of in high schooling in Katihar, and then I went to the college where my father was principal. He was the head of the commerce department. He wanted me to be a doctor at that time in 1960,
Yes, that was the
71.
passion.
But somehow I insisted that my heart lies in physics. I want to do physics, especially the applied physics. I joined there.
So was it only this article or some teacher also inspired you?
I think mostly this article, of course, teacher had a very profound contribution that where I am at this point. One of the most outstanding teacher that I met, his name was J. Ram at BIT Mesra. BIT Mesra has one of the most outstanding professor called H.G. Venkatesh. He was one of the co-inventor of another thing called maser, which is a counterpart of laser in microwave. I think in BIT Mesra, that's where my real physics started. J. Ram, H.G. Venkatesh made a tremendous contribution towards my dream, that which I had. They really provided the fundamental for me to proceed. And after doing my BS, and that was, I did it in quantum electronics. Laser in physics is called quantum electronics. And I moved to one of the most renowned institute, IIT Kanpur, because they are the only one who had quantum electronics and lasers. And it is so fulfilling sometimes in your life that you have a quest, you have a path, and you land it with the right kind of place.
Right kind of teachers can make a right kind of technologist. We'll come back soon. I have to take a break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, Dr. Upendra. When you were doing your laser work in IIT Kanpur, then at that time you had taken a decision to go to France, and why France, if you had taken a decision? Because laser work was being done, best of it was being done in the United States of America or Soviet Union. These were the two places which were much more advanced as compared to any other country.
Let me tell you one thing. I think that you brought a very good point about my father and my mother. I didn't talk about my mother. My father was a very practical person, but my mother was a dreamer. She never went to school. She went 6th or 7th grade. But from very childhood, she always told me, she had a tremendous confidence in me. And she said that, I want you to go places. I want to live your dreams. And I think if there is one person in my career who has contributed to where I am today, it's my mother, who is no more.
So she happens to be a role model.
Role model. And there was a juncture, you asked me this question, that I was so, after doing my MPhil and other things, I was so tired of studying that I decided that I don't want to study.
You wanted to take up a job?
I take up a job. I did take up a job in Hyderabad.
What kind of job? Was it teaching that was at the back of your mind, or?
No, it was a campus interview. I was so much in lasers. There was a company called Harvin Agencies. They were the sole sellers and deliverer of this laser technology in India, because at that time laser technology was not any laser you cannot buy. You have to buy through exclusive agent. So this particular company, Harvin Agencies in Hyderabad, based in Sanat Nagar, Hyderabad, had offices all over the country. And they used to go to Vava Atomic Research Center, IIT Kanpur, and whatever their needs were, they will sell this laser instrument for the spectroscopy, for remote sensing, for all purposes. They came to IIT Kanpur, a campus interview. I was interested. I went there, and they selected me, and they made me their technical manager, regional technical manager for whole Northeast India.
And you were supposed to sell
lasers. And I did sell laser. I'm still a very good salesman. My father, he was a great education person. He did his 7th to MCom. He did it in BHU, UP College. He told me one time when I left IIT Kanpur, he said that, Upendra, whatever the field you take, you should finish it. You should not have left after MPhil. You were there at IIT Kanpur, one of the best institute. You should have completed your PhD. Because look at me. I am the head of the department. I did my MCom in 1952. And I should have finished my PhD. And I could not. I did not. And I still regret it. That particular line really stuck in my back of my
You
head.
come back to Kanpur?
No. So let me tell you what happened. This is a very interesting story. So I'm working out all those things. I'm doing this thing. But back of mind, it's bugging me. So I was in Calcutta. And one of my friend got sick in Patna. I come to see him. And while he's there, I just pick up the newspaper. And in the newspaper, it was a statesman. And there was a small announcement. That announcement was Ministry of Education and Culture and French collaborative program. They select only 26 kids in all different fields. Incidentally, that year, they had a 1981, they had one fellowship in physics. Guess what? That was in laser physics. Laser physics. And I'm sitting there waiting for my friend to wake up from his surgery. And I said that, look, I was not supposed to be here. I was in Calcutta, just heard I came here because friend is very important. And I see there is a connection. So when he wakes up, I tell him, I'm going to France. And he looked at me, he said that, wow, you're going to France? I said that, yeah, I just saw this ad. And he was incredible. He said that, how can you see an ad and you can say that you are going to France? I said that I'm destined to. God.
So you never thought that you will come back to Kanpur IIT,
No.
but you decided to go to France. And how was your experience? Was it a very major cultural shock for you when you landed up there? How was the culture how do you compare the culture between Kanpur IIT and France?
Let me tell you, IIT Kanpur, I have a tremendous respect. I had a professor called Tulsi Das. His name was Tulsi Das, he was Tulsi Das. When I went to France, really, one of the reasons that I went to France is because of the technology. I felt that
You loved working with hand and technology was your passion.
Exactly. In IIT Kanpur at that time, the research was mostly spectroscopy. I was a more like applied physicist. So when I chose for France, I had a small training. I landed up in France. Hardly I speak any language. And when I go to I always thought...
And they don't speak English.
They don't speak English.
You didn't know French, they didn't know English.
So first day I sit in the class, I always thought, I assumed that in France people will speak French, English. The class physics is taught in English, come on. It was a shock to me when they started teaching in French. And then I realized that this is their language. And I know a lot of language in India. I have a tremendous respect for language. And I said that, wow, this is an opportunity for me.
How many languages do you know?
I speak Bengali fluently, read Bengali. I grew up in Katihar. Maithili. Bhojpuri is my mother tongue. Hindi. I grew up with Sindhis because in Katihar there were Sindhis and there were Bengalis. So I learned Sindhis also. And then I went to France. Within 3 months I was speaking French fluently. I did write my thesis after 4 years in French. So in France, when I went there, they had a project with NASA, believe it or not. I was looks like they're always destined to that area. So they had this project in NASA, in France, to build a LiDAR system. Let me introduce you to the term LiDAR. It's light detection and ranging. Just like you have a radar. Radar has a microwave kind of frequency. Light is 10 to the power 6 higher frequency. That means 10 to the power 6 is smaller wavelength. So when you send a radar waves and you see a plane, when it hits the plane and returns, you have an antenna, you receive it, and you see the plane. When the light waves goes and it sees a small molecule or dust, it is as big as plane to the light. So this LiDAR technology, NASA had given a project to France to develop a LiDAR to measure the water vapor in the atmosphere.
And aerosols. We'll come back to this discussion. Don't go anywhere. We'll take a short break. We'll come back soon. Welcome back, Dr. Upendra. Uh, we were discussing that this new fascinating laser was in the offing when you landed up in France. And France had a very intense connection with NASA. What is the application? Why did NASA and France get into interested with this fascinating laser?
The laser was
By this
because-
time, laser was something which was mature technology.
Yes. But the challenge was that we wanted to measure the water vapor in the atmosphere. To measure the water vapor,
Why was it important?
because for every time when you look at the weather, moisture is a key, two ways. Moisture is a critical thing for the rain, for the studying any kind of
Movement of
Everything.
even movement of air
storm
and
and
formation
building
of
and everything.
everything.
They wanted to have a vertical profiling of water vapor. All those hurricane and storms that which you are seeing, they're arising out of the water vapor.
Which means the key thing is that this is the earth, then there is atmosphere up here. You need to measure water vapors and their sizes and their density, etc., vertically.
Vertically.
But this LiDAR is also very precise as far as horizontal profiling is concerned.
I will say that mostly depending on where you are, the key thing LiDAR provides you is the vertical resolution, high vertical resolution. The passive remote sensing instruments are pretty good in the horizontal swath of the measurement. But when you are looking at vertical profiling, that suppose from the ground till 5 kilometers, how the water vapor is changing, that particular part is provided by the LiDAR because it's a pulse light.
But it had a lot of other applications.
Yeah.
Would you like to say something about other applications, because it opened up a new vista?
Absolutely. So let me tell you the key things that LiDAR, for example, water vapor, wind, CO2, ozone, all these measurements, the high vertical resolution measurement, none of the passive remote sensing sensors were capable of doing. So emergence of LiDAR almost happened, and I happened to be there in the first LiDAR development called LASE. The problem that happens is that most of the lasers are about 5%, 3% efficient. That means about 96, 97% is the heat. And that heat, you have to take it out, because when the way the laser works, that you pump the molecule to a higher level and then they come down. So you have to have the cool part of it. So there is a lot of physics of the heat that you have to understand, and how you can extract this heat out of the crystal. So one of the biggest challenges that I encountered was the 2 micron. And that's, I will tell you a little bit about it, that when I was asked to join NASA Langley in 1996, they gave me a project.
You were responsible for the safety of the lasers.
I was responsible for generating or building a first 2 micron. This is a 2.053 micron. It
Right.
is an infrared laser to measure the wind from space. And I was brought in as a head of that particular group. And my job was to not only build the laser, but invent the crystal, put it together, and put it in space.
And remove the heat.
Remove the heat. And till date, from 1996 till we are talking about 2016, we built the most powerful 2 micron laser that exists
Anywhere in the world.
anywhere in the world. And it is a world record. We built the 1.2 joule system at 10 hertz. And from that time, this was initially for the wind. And what I found out, the similar kind of laser that I can use to measure the CO2, which is the most critical measurement the human being, everybody is looking for, because of the impact, because of the climate change, that we want to understand that how CO2 is distributed all over, what is the source and sinks. But the key thing was developing a 2 micron laser, which I have NASA. I'm very fortunate to be with NASA. They gave me about $70 to $80 million For 10 years, 2001 to 2010, we built the most fascinating, most incredible, and very innovative laser system at the 2 micron.
Don't you feel that you need to come back to India and then contribute to Indian space program?
I am contributing. I tell you one thing, that science, just like atmosphere doesn't have a boundary. Science does not have a boundary. The research,
National, religious, caste, racial, no boundaries. Science never recognizes these boundaries.
never, never. Today, I am there in NASA. NASA doesn't look at me that whether my name is Singh, whether I'm Indian, whether my skin color is what. I'm very, very fortunate what NASA has given and the confidence they have given. And I work with everybody. Today, I'm here. I'm working with the chairman of ISRO, A.S. Kiran Kumar. We are planning a big, second time in India, a symposium called Asia Pacific Remote Sensing Symposium. We are bringing together 7 heads of the space agencies. My NASA administrator, Charlie Bolden, is coming here, and NOAA, ESA, DLR, German, French, everybody is coming. And we have a great host, Kiran Kumar. He has taken the leadership here, and he is helping us to shape up this particular symposium, where about 650 papers will be presented first week of April, right here in Delhi. And we are congregating these space agency heads because any space agency, whether it's ISRO, whether it's NASA, whether it's ESA, they are funded and supported by the common people, by the taxpayer.
I wanted to ask you that if you compare, this question must have been asked to you a number of times. If you compare NASA, which has a long history, much longer history than ISRO, which has huge budget as compared to ISRO, how do you compare the two? Can we stand up as ISRO? Can we stand up shoulder to shoulder with NASA?
I kind of, when I hear the word compare, I personally don't see that way. We cannot compare. What I look at it in a very positive sense, that what are the synergies between NASA and ISRO? As I said, that I don't have a boundary. When I talked about a space agency, all the space agency have one goal. Their research, how they
touch
can
the heavens.
how they can help and improve the societal benefit of the common people. That is the goal and objective of each and every space agency. And here's the second thing. To do that part, you have to go in a space. Now, everybody wants to go to space. Everybody has similar kind of priorities. The dialogue that which we are going to have here is that how we all can work together in synergistically, in a complementary way, the strength of ISRO, the strength of NASA, the strength of JAXA, the strength of CNES. So these kind of event, one is a long term, for example, climate change, and wind is a very short term because the hurricane and all those extreme weather forecasts.
Save lives.
Save life. Now the question is, I have been developing, just for these two, I have spent 20 years of my life. And before me, there are people who spent 10, 15 years of life, and NASA has invested quite a lot in this technology. If we try to again recreate or reinvent the wheel in India, it will again take a long time. So what I am talking about, that whether if something has been invented, why to invent the wheel? ISRO has a tremendous capability in strength, in launch, passive instrumentation. Is there a way that we come to the party as a potluck party? I bring something, you bring something, we can work together, because the core thing is the data, the knowledge that which ISRO is seeking and the knowledge which is NASA is seeking. Together, they can get there faster, they can get there more efficiently, and the common people will derive the benefit out of it. And that's way I think NASA is looking. That's the way our chairman Kiran Kumar and Charlie Bolden is looking. And probably this will be a venue. They will talk about all the synergistics and complementariness between the two agencies rather than comparing like this and that.
Who can do what, and I'm better than you and you're better than me. I wish the world was like that, but unfortunately the world is slightly more complex than that. Would you like to sign off with a message to the younger generation?
What I want to tell people, my young people, that knowledge is such a thing that you have to seek it. It's just like when there's a water is flowing down, you have to be down here to seek that water. You have to be humble. And for that, wherever the knowledge is, you go and seek. Knowledge does not have caste, creed, color. It's the goal that which you have. And you go there, whether it's in France, whether in the United States, whether in this place, that place, because the main objective is to use that knowledge for the humanity. And the key thing is never think about destination. The fun is not getting there on the top of Everest. The fun is that while you are going, the journey that which you take, that's very, very, so smell the flower and remember, life is all about the journey, is not about the destination.
Journey is more enjoyable than reaching the destination. Thank you very much for giving us so much of time, and thank you for coming here. May I, on your behalf, promise our viewers that you will be happy to answer any question if they have?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Write to us. We'll forward the questions, queries that you have to Dr. Upendra. We'll come back next week once again with an outstanding scientist. Till then, goodbye.